Hello, all you freedom-loving people. While President Trump visited Alligator Alcatraz, he got the news of the big, beautiful bill passing the Senate, but Elon Musk still doesn't agree, and General Flynn has more on Xi Jinping's demise. Okay, let's get into it. Today, President Trump marked the opening of a new detention facility for illegal migrants in Florida that is called Alligator Alcatraz. The name Alligator Alcatraz is given for its remote location deep in the Everglades and for the surrounding wildlife. It's located in remote swamplands that are teeming with alligators, crocodiles, and pythons. And because of its inescapable nature, it's often compared to Alcatraz. It's designed to host and detain nearly 3,000 illegal migrants in order to accelerate the deportation process. Upon landing at the airport, President Trump praised Governor Ron DeSantis on his job.
Hello, everybody. The trip was nice, and the job they've done is fantastic. And this is what you need. And Ron worked beautifully with Christie and all of the people at Homeland Security and got it done in how many days, Ron?
8 days, a new facility was up and running. So
DeSantis also praised the cooperation between the state and federal government, and he mentioned that Florida constitutes about 20% of all immigration arrests nationwide. DeSantis also announced that Florida would deputize National Guardsmen as immigration judges.
this is we're offering up our National Guard and other folks in Florida to be deputized to be immigration judges. We're working with the Department of Justice for the approvals. I'm sure Pam will approve. But then I'll have a National Guard judge advocate here. Someone has a notice to appear. Biden would tell them to come back in 3 years and appear. Now you'll be able to appear in like a day or two, so they're not going to be detained, hopefully, for all that long. We'll have people here in this facility that can make, it's a bureaucracy. The president's got to deal with the bureaucracy. Now, that Supreme Court ruling was good because that's going to allow him to be able to exercise Article 2 the way founders intended, but you still have bureaucracy. So we want to cut through that so that we have an efficient operation between Florida and DHS to get the removal of these illegals done. So there very well may be. I know Secretary Noem and her team have said as soon as the president departs, we'll be open to start receiving folks. And so we'll see what the tempo is. We do have the 2,000 in Northeast Florida that will open very soon.
Speaking to reporters at a round table after touring the facility, President Trump said that deportation is the only way out of Alligator Alcatraz.
It's known as Alligator Alcatraz, which is very appropriate because I looked outside and that's not a place I want to go hiking anytime soon. But very soon this facility will house some of the most menacing migrants, some of the most vicious people on the planet. We're surrounded by miles of treacherous swampland, and the only way out is really deportation. And a lot of these people are self-deporting back to their country where they came from. Quite a few. We're amazed at actually the number. We took the FEMA money that Joe Biden allocated to pay for the free luxury hotel rooms, where he's paying hundreds of millions of dollars in New York City, and we used it to build this project. And Narana was just a little fraction of that money. The money they spent on that project, I happen to know the real estate developer. He's he never really made that much, but he became very wealthy. With luxury, he didn't do well. With people that are not exactly luxury, he's made a fortune.
The visit also marked President Trump's first friendly encounter with DeSantis since their rivalry in the presidential primary. During the roundtable, President Trump called him a friend, noting their strong, long-standing relationship.
Ron, I'd like to thank you personally. You're my friend, and you'll always be my friend. And we may have some skirmishes even in the future. I doubt it, but we'll always come back because we just we have blood that seems to match pretty well. We have a relationship that's been a very strong one for a long period of time, and I appreciate it, very much appreciate it.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, border czar Tom Homan, President Trump's top policy advisor Stephen Miller, and Representative Byron Donalds were among those present at the opening event. During the roundtable, Noem warned that illegal migrants who do not self-deport from the United States could end up at Alligator Alcatraz.
And right here on this location, we'll have about 3,000 beds. Other location will have another 2,000 beds that will allow us to bring individuals across the country that we are bringing in and incarcerating for violating our laws and immediately get them out of the country as soon as we possibly can. It's exactly what we need to be perpetuating in other states. And what I would say is, I want all of you to notice these flyers that we've got, is that everybody who sees these flyers or anybody who sees these news clips should know you can still go home on your own. You can self-deport. If you go on the CBP Home app and go home now, you will get the chance to come back to the United States legally. You will get the chance to come back and do it the right way. If you don't, you may end up here. And you may end up here and being processed, deported out of this country, and never get the chance to come back.
And while touring the site, President Trump received the news that the Senate had narrowly passed his sweeping legislative package known as the One Big Beautiful Bill. Today, the Senate passed its version of the bill at midday after a vote-a-rama that began the previous day and continued through the night. Vice President J.D. Vance broke a 50-50 tie to secure passage of the bill. Senators Rand Paul, Thom Tillis, and Susan Collins voted in opposition. Other holdouts, including Senators Rick Scott, Ron Johnson, Josh Hawley, and Lisa Murkowski, ultimately supported the legislation despite their misgivings. Through the night, Majority Leader John Thune labored to find agreement among the Republican caucus members, several of whom had submitted amendments to tailor the bill to their liking. The bill now moves to the House, where Speaker Mike Johnson has to rally both conservatives and moderates. Congress had hoped to pass it by July 4th, but that deadline now seems in doubt. During his trip and after learning that the bill had passed the Senate, President Trump said, "Wow, thank you. It's a great bill. There is something for everyone, and I think it's going to go very nicely in the House. Actually, I think it will be easier in the House than it was in the Senate." President Trump also said that he is open to delaying the July 4th deadline. He said, "I'd love to do July 4th, but I think it's very hard to do July 4th. It was 2 months ago, I would think maybe July 4th, but somewhere around there." Elon Musk did not give up on his criticism over the GOP's Big Beautiful Bill. On Monday, he wrote on X, "It is obvious with the insane spending of this bill, which increases the debt ceiling by a record $5 trillion, that we live in a one-party country, the Porky Pig Party." Obviously, he was not satisfied with the performance of either party. He also said, "Time for a new political party that actually cares about the people." A few hours later, Musk published another post on X emphasizing his opinion that the U.S. is governed by a one-party system. He wrote, "They just pretend to be two parties. It's just one uniparty in reality." He restated that Americans should have more choices. Our country needs an alternative to the Democrat-Republican uniparty so that the people actually have a voice. Musk previously said that he was disappointed in the spending bill because the bill would upend all the work he did with Doge. However, Senate Majority Leader John Thune refuted Musk's claim, noting that a lot of what Elon was working on was on the discretionary side of the budget, which the Big Beautiful Bill doesn't touch. The Office of Management and Budget Director, Russell Vought, noted that the GOP's Big Beautiful Bill could not legally include cuts to discretionary spending, which is the very category Musk's Doge initiatives targeted. The bill includes discretionary spending directives for defense and border security, but final approval will still need to go through the congressional appropriations process. So, as Elon Musk threw down the gauntlet, senators went into a marathon vote-a-rama. Lawmakers debated the massive bill for hours from Sunday afternoon to early Monday morning. The next phase was the marathon vote-a-rama, where legislators on either side of the aisle submitted an unlimited number of amendments to the bill. What was predictable was that Senate Republicans used the time to further change and mold the bill to suit holdouts, while Democrats inflicted as much pain and burned as much time as possible with amendments designed to kneecap or outright kill the legislation. But what ended up happening was, as predicted, the Senate passed the bill today. Musk vowed to primary any lawmaker who supported the budget reconciliation bill. He wrote, "Every member of Congress who campaigned on reducing government spending and then immediately voted for the biggest debt increase in history should hang their head in shame, and they will lose their primary next year if it's the last thing I do on this earth." Then today, President Trump suggested that Doge examine the subsidies given to Elon Musk's companies. President Trump wrote that the SpaceX CEO may have received more subsidy than any human being in history. He stated in a Truth Social post, "No more rocket launches, satellites, or electric car production, and our country would save a fortune. Perhaps we should have Doge take a good hard look at this. Big money to be saved." Then Musk replied, "I'm literally saying cut it all now," without elaborating further. Then, before leaving for his visit to Alligator Alcatraz in Florida, President Trump was asked if he wants to deport Elon Musk.
I don't know. I think we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. You know what Doge is? Doge is the monster that might have to go back and eat Elon. Wouldn't that be terrible? He gets a lot of subsidies, Peter. But Elon's very upset that the EV mandate is going to be terminated. And you know what? When you look at it, not everybody wants an electric car. I don't want an electric car. I want to have maybe gasoline, maybe electric, maybe a hybrid, maybe someday a hydrogen. If you have a hydrogen car, it has one problem. It blows up, So I'm going to give that one to Peter. I'm going to let Peter test it out.
Then Musk said he was tempted to respond, but he refrained. And during his visit to Florida, President Trump once again warned Elon Musk.
Elon Musk is ripping into this bill again. Are you concerned that Republicans are going to be swayed by Musk and his money?
No, I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is Doge is going to look at Musk. And if Doge looks at Musk, we're going to save a fortune. Thank you very much, everybody. I don't think you should be playing that game with me.
So today, the stock of Tesla fell between 5.5 and 7 points in pre-market trading after the barbs, and Tesla stock is down nearly 13% in the past 5 days. The gunman who ambushed firefighters in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, was identified as a young transient on Monday, but the motive for the crime remains a mystery. The suspect is 20-year-old Wes Rowley. He set a fire in a mountainous area of Coeur d'Alene on Sunday afternoon. Then he shot firefighters who came to put it out, killing 2 and critically wounding 1. In audio from the scene, a firefighter said that there was an emergency situation with an active shooter at the fire. The firefighter told a dispatcher, "We need law enforcement up here immediately because there were 2 battalion chiefs down." He said, "It's clear to me that this fire was set intentionally to draw us in." Then the suspect killed himself during a police roundup. The firefighter victims in the attack were also identified. Frank Harwood and John Morrison were killed while Dave Tisdale is hospitalized and in stable condition. Cooney County Sheriff Bob Norris said in a press conference that Rowley had some sort of interaction with the firefighters when they arrived at the fire, but he did not give specifics. The sheriff also said that the suspect had expressed interest in becoming a firefighter. Rowley was born in California and he lived in Coeur d'Alene for the past year. The sheriff said that Rowley had no known criminal record, but local police recently had 5 minor non-violent encounters with Rowley. He appeared to be living in his car at the time, and the police had asked him to leave the area where he was parked and staying during their contacts. Rowley was seen in a picture posted in his Instagram story wearing black face paint and camouflage clothing with a bandolier of bullets on his waist. The motive behind Rowley's actions thus far remain unclear. President Trump signed an executive order on Monday formally ending the U.S. sanctions program against Syria in support of the new Syrian government and their peaceful reconstruction. The statement from the White House stated that President Trump hopes that Syria's new government will hopefully succeed in stabilizing the country and keeping peace. And President Trump believes there is great potential in working with Syria to stop radicalism, improve relations, and secure peace in the Middle East. Syria was classified as a state sponsor of terrorism by the Carter administration in 1979 during the reign of Hafez al-Assad. This was primarily because of its assistance to armed groups such as Hezbollah in Lebanon. The Bush administration subsequently imposed additional sanctions in 2004 for interfering in Lebanon's political situation, for supporting terrorist organizations, and for developing weapons of mass destruction. After the Syrian civil war broke out in 2011, Obama's government further expanded sanctions in response to the bloody crackdown on protesters and serious human rights abuses. Now, the Trump executive order lifts a number of these executive sanctions that were issued by successive U.S. presidents since 2004, including export restrictions and financial transaction bans on the Syrian government. However, sanctions against former President Bashar al-Assad, his close associates, human rights abusers, drug trafficking networks, ISIS, and Iranian proxies remain in place. It all started with a meeting that President Trump had on May 14th with the new Syrian president, Ahmed al-Sharaa. President Trump was quite impressed with the new Syrian president.
How did you find the Syrian president?
Right. I think very good. Young, attractive guy, tough guy. You know, strong pass, very strong pass fighter.
Is that wordy?
But he's got a real shot at pulling it together.
Subsequently, on May 23rd, the U.S. government issued a 180-day waiver for business dealings with the new Syrian government, and the Department of Treasury issued a General License 25, which allows U.S. firms to engage in trade and private investment activities in Syria as a preliminary relaxation of the ban. Under the terms of this executive order, the Secretary of State and the Department of Treasury will further review whether the conditions for sanctions under the Caesar Act, which is a law that sanctions the Assad regime for atrocities, no longer apply. And they will decide whether to report to Congress on whether to suspend or terminate some of these provisions. However, the full lifting of all sanctions that were created by the act would require congressional repeal. The White House also said that the U.S. would maintain sanctions authority over individuals and organizations that have been involved in chemical weapons activities, major human rights abuses, and drug trade. They also asked the State Department to review whether Syria should remain on the list of state sponsors of terrorism. Rumors of political turmoil in the Chinese Communist Party are rampant nowadays. Well-informed sources, including those in the United States, have noticed a number of unusual signs. Gregory W. Slayton is a former U.S. diplomat. He published an article in the New York Post on Friday suggesting that Xi Jinping, the CCP leader, might be stepping down soon. Slayton wrote, "Xi is in poor health and likely to retire at the CCP's plenary session in August or take a purely ceremonial position. Xi's downfall has been rumored before, but never have we seen the recent purges and mysterious deaths of dozens of People's Liberation Army generals loyal to Xi, all replaced by non-Xi loyalists." Slayton mentioned an important figure, Zhang Yuxia. He is now the de facto leader of the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. He actually helped Xi secure an unprecedented third 5-year term, but he has now fallen out with Xi. Slayton also revealed that Xi's personal protective detail has recently been halved. What world leader cuts his own security? Another hint that Slayton cited as one signal that Xi is falling out of power is the unnaming of Xi's father's mausoleum last month. Xi had a mausoleum built to honor his father. It's unprecedented that a mausoleum that Xi had built to honor his father would be unnamed. This mausoleum, however, is larger than the mausoleums for both Mao Zedong and Deng Xiaoping. Slayton also pointed out possible replacements for Xi. He wrote, "Although not yet certain, it appears that Zhang Yuxia and CCP leaders have chosen Wang Yang, whom Deng Xiaoping lifted out of obscurity and who served as a successful technocrat until his forced retirement in 2023, to be the next CCP chairman." The article also said, "He is known as a soft-spoken reformer who supports more free market policy, more decentralized decision-making, and much less confrontational foreign policy." Slayton noted that apart from the poor economic situation, the isolation of the CCP in the international community was also criticized. The article also said, in fact, Iran's rapid defeat by Israel and the U.S. has underscored the weakness of Xi's foreign policy. One CCP elder recently lamented China's complete isolation on the world stage under Xi, except for a handful of countries that are good for nothing. And former U.S. National Security Advisor Michael Flynn posted a warning on X last week. He posted photos of 3 top CCP officials and wrote, "Attention, there is clearly a power shift occurring in China. China watchers need to keep a close eye on the loss of confidence by key members of the CCP, especially members of the public and state security ministries. Pay attention. Consequences of a leadership change in China are immense." And Zheng Yushao was one of the 3 senior CCP officials among the photos that were posted by General Flynn. Flynn was the director of the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, and he was the National Security Advisor for the U.S. military and intelligence community. So for him to suddenly break the news of a power shift within the CCP, this is considered to be a highly credible revelation. Yesterday, the Justice Department announced a major case in which they seized hundreds of financial accounts, fake websites, and laptops that were tied to a massive North Korean scam. So what was the plot? The operatives pretended to be remote tech workers in order to slip into U.S. companies. And then they funneled cash back to North Korea's weapons program. The crackdown came when cybersecurity experts found that even Fortune 500 companies had been hit. The operatives used stolen identities and AI tools to breeze through job interviews and get hired without raising any red flags. With remote work booming since the pandemic, these cyber tactics have only gotten bolder. One of the targets was a California-based defense contractor that worked on AI technology where some sensitive data was sent overseas. And it turned out that these North Korean agents were getting help from inside the US, specifically from so-called laptop farms. So the FBI searched 29 laptop farms across 16 states and seized about 200 laptops, along with fake websites and bank accounts that were used to wash the money clean. People in the US, China, the United Arab Emirates, and Taiwan helped embed these agents into American companies. One U.S. citizen, Jiangxing Wang, was arrested and charged for his role in the scheme, which generated over $5 million and involved 80 stolen identities of Americans. Separately, 4 North Korean nationals were indicted for allegedly stealing $900,000 in virtual currencies from 2 unnamed companies based in Georgia. So with millions stolen and national secrets at risk, the FBI message was clear. Brett Leatherman, the assistant director of the FBI Cyber Division, warned by saying, if you host laptop farms for the benefit of North Korean actors, law enforcement will be waiting for you. And the State Department is still offering $5 million for tips that could shut North Korean financial and other illegal activities down. But it's not just North Korea. The Iranian regime is also running its own playbook of cyber threats. Recently, a hacker group that is apparently linked to the Iranian regime was back in the spotlight. This time, the group is threatening to release a stash of emails that they claim were stolen from people close to President Trump. The group, which calls itself Robert, had previously gone quiet. Back in May, they said to Reuters that they were done leaking documents. But after the recent Israeli and U.S. attacks on the nuclear sites of Iran, they resurfaced again. The group contacted Reuters and promoted the sale of the stolen messages. They claimed to be sitting on 100 gigabytes of data from White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles, from President Trump confidant Roger Stone, and from President Trump's lawyer, Lindsey Graham, and also even from porn star Stormy Daniels. The group says that they want to expose internal communications. So the U.S. officials aren't taking it lightly. Attorney General Pam Bondi called the threat an unconscionable cyber attack. Bondi promised that agencies would work to protect the people targeted. And FBI Director Kash Patel also promised national security breaches would be investigated and prosecuted to the fullest. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency called it a calculated smear campaign. Some experts also suggest the Iranian regime is exploring non-military ways to hit back. Yesterday, the U.S. cyber officials warned that Iranian hackers may still be targeting U.S. companies and infrastructure. Actually, the renewed threat came shortly after President Trump announced yesterday that he had no intention of negotiating with the Iranian regime or offering any deals. But this was not the group's first stunt. During the 2024 election, the group leaked a batch of emails to the media. They leaked President Trump's campaign material to the media and to individuals associated with the Biden campaign. And a few months later, the Justice Department of the Biden administration actually indicted 3 Iranian Revolutionary Guard members for leaking the emails. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you so much for your support of Front Page. Please remember to leave a comment below the video. This is really helping us to be seen all around the world. The more people who watch Front Page, the more freedom-loving people the world will have. And please hit the like button and hit the notification bell after subscribing. And please share this video with your friends and family because everybody deserves to know the truth.